When Paul McGrath left Manchester United in 1989, it seemed like persistent knee injuries were about to curtail his career. Instead, it lasted another 8 years. His legend in Ireland grew even further, and he became a hero to many in Birmingham and beyond.
The boys in Claren Blue, we've conquered the road.
Paul, your reach goes far and wide.
That's brilliant.
It's extraordinary. The Villa thing, Paul, that's just an example of it, just a sample of, you know, they do call you God over there, some of them do, and, you know, for a modest person, that must be pretty strange. It's a bit of a love story, isn't it? What happened there?
Yeah, I think it is, because I think they thought I was going there for, you know, the last, I think I was at 30 or something, 31 maybe. And I think they just thought I was just wanting another payday and going and taking as much off the club as I could, and then just...
Right off into the sunset.
Yeah, right off into the sunset. But I loved the club. Villa's a place that a lot of players love playing at, simply because they have a lot of the semi-finals there and all that sort of stuff. So loads of footballers, if you ask them, you know, they love to actually play at Villa Park. But for me, then to suddenly say that I was going to be playing there week in, week out, so I just went with Villa because, and Graham Taylor was so good to me. He was so good to me. He just said, well, it was actually Doug Ellis as well, believe it or not.
Deadly Doug.
Deadly Doug, believe it or not. And they said, right, well, we'll double your wages, whatever your wages were at Manchester United, we'll double them and we'll give you more. And I went, you'll double me wages and you'll talk about giving me more. And so I just went, I was going, oh my Lord, this is brilliant. So, and I realised they wanted me to play for the club so much that they were willing to do these things for me. So I thought, I'm going to give this my best shot for the next, however, I think I was only, I think they wanted to do it for 2 years first and then see would my knees hold out and all this sort of stuff. And then I played 7 seasons.
7 seasons, yeah. You mentioned Graham Taylor there. He comes across as a very special person because when you went there, I think you were struggling with leaving United, the change that involved.
Excuse me.
You know, injuries and obviously you had your own personal demons were becoming an issue at that time.
Yeah.
What did Graham Taylor do for you to help you?
Well, yeah, I was struggling with the fact that I was at a new club and they were all expecting me to do things their way and go out on the football pitch and do certain things. That's when the physio Jim Walker came. I went to him and I said, Jim, I don't usually train the same way as the other players train. I love going into the gym and keeping myself fit, going on the bike, you know, because my knees are now a little bit shot to pieces and stuff like that. And Jim said, right, well, I'll talk to the people that need to be talked to, and we'll cut down your training sessions and stuff like that, and we'll make sure that you're fit going out on the pitch every Saturday and all that sort of stuff. And I think it was Rita. Rita is Graham Taylor's wife. Graham came to me and he said, look, I've had a word with Rita and we're willing to have you in our house if you want, Paul, because I'd had a quite serious thing happen to me while I was you know, on a downer basically. So and Graham had come to me and just said, Paul, look, if you want to come and stay with myself and Rita, you're welcome to do that, and we'll get you right. And we'll get you well again. And I just thought, Jesus, this man's a saint, wanting the likes of me down at his house. So, yeah. But I didn't go. But I did start repaying him in the performances that I was started giving after that. I hope he feels the same way, because Yeah, he got I think he got the England manager at the end of that season.
Yeah,
so.
you had a great season then with him. But you mentioned Jim Walker, who's more than just a physio. Look, he's another incredible person, not just for your body.
Yeah.
The guy who says, we got to look after this guy's knees and we'll get the result. But he helped you, protected you over those years as well, didn't he?
Yeah, Jim Walker. And it was Jim and Mick Byrne. I think they both had a joint venture together and said, look, what we're going to do, even to get me home to play for Ireland, they had to make arrangements then who's going to drop me to which plane. Jim was going to come on the plane with me. It was eventually. So it was a great trip for Jim. Jim was delighted with himself. It was all brilliantly laid out. And then I could concentrate and just, walking onto the football pitch and doing the best I could for all the people who were doing the best they could for me. And honestly, it was that simple.
Big Ron comes back then. As you say, Graham Taylor moves on and Joseph Venglos is there for a year, and that's not maybe on the same page. But Big Ron comes back, who you'd worked with before, and this is the first season of the Premier League then, and Villa are flying, and you in particular. Is this the best football of your career?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because we got Dean Saunders then, and we had Daly and Atkinson had come over to us, and there was so many players that wanted to play for Aston Villa now, and you had Tony Daly, who was another one, Dwight York. We had these lads that were always going to score goals. It was just about how many, and sometimes they would just rip people apart. And it was like 5 goals here, 6 goals there, and if we let in one, the other team did well, to be honest. And we concentrated on just defending, not letting goals in, and suddenly we were flying up the leagues,
You win the Player of the Year award, the PFA Player of the Year award. It's a hugely prestigious honour. I think only 6 defenders in the 40-odd years have ever won it. I mean, Virgil van Dijk, for example, in recent years, John Terry. It must be an incredible night to go down there and pick up that award from. Was it Bobby Charlton who presented it?
Bobby Charlton presented it to me as well.
What are your memories of that?
Bobby used to stop me every so often, even when I was walking around Old Trafford, and say, "Look, just try and get your act together, Big Paul, because you're a good player, but try and get your act together." And he'd give me actually good advice, and same with Sir Matt. Forget what they're talking about you off the pitch. Just do what you do on the pitch and keep doing it. And it was lovely to hear from names like that, to actually hear those people saying, "Look, son, you just keep doing what you're doing on the football pitch." And I used to love those 2 people for just saying those little words to me. But that was one of the most incredible evenings I've ever had, because Bobby Charlton, it's a World Cup winner. And then to win this thing is just, it's mind-boggling, because it usually goes to a forward anyway. So.
Yeah. It is incredible, 4 years after you possibly had written off. You touched on it there. You are producing your best football on the field, but off the field, and you've written about this in your book and talked about it really honestly. Life is in bad shape. I think your marriage was going off the rails. The drinking is an issue. Was football an escape for you at that time, or were your struggles off the field fueling your performances on the pitch? What was fueling this?
No, I was going through some stuff with I think my second wife at that stage, and I just so it was hard to keep everything under control. When I won that award, I knew that I had to go away then to play a World Cup, and I'm thinking to myself, well, how can I go away to play a World Cup? Because at that stage, my left shoulder had given out. Totally given out. So, and I thought, well, I played one game. It had happened the night of the Manchester United, the
94
League Cup final, and I'd knock at Jim's thing at about 3 o'clock in the night, and I just said, "Jim, my whole shoulder is killing me, and I don't know what to do, and all this sort of stuff." But then I played in the World Cup, and this thing was hanging by my side, so it was ridiculous to even let me play. so later on in the competition, there was just nothing I could do about it. There was people running at me that I was never gonna stop them. So they were just running in and having shots and stuff like that. And I was looking, you know, less than a footballer, I think.
Let's talk about that '94 League Cup final. It's against Man United. 5 years on, you're desperate to play after what you talked about with the arm.
Yeah.
But you play through the pain. It's a great day for Villa, and then you meet Ferguson on the pitch afterwards, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I met him in the tunnel, just in the tunnel there, and he came over and he gave me an almighty belt in the stomach, and he just said, "Well done, son. Well done, son."
Yeah.
You know, so he was, you know, he was gracious in defeat and stuff like that. And I you know, he was decent to me after football and stuff. So I've no qualms with him anymore.
Yeah.
I really do think he did everything that was right for Manchester United, and so I can't say anything bad about him, and I wouldn't.
You won another League Cup then at Villa. Ron, unfortunately, he was sacked, and Brian Little came in, and it was a sense he wanted to maybe change things,
Yeah.
maybe bring in younger players. Was that a difficult one for you, even though you were obviously advancing in years? Did you feel like you had something left in you?
I honestly did. I mean, it was in 80 or 96 that we were playing Leeds, I think it was, in the League Cup, and I thought I'd done quite well in certain areas, you know, and I think he didn't, and it was as simple as that. But he was always dead straight with me, you know, and I think you know, he was the first one that kind of said to me, and he was trying to give it to me as easy as possible, but you know, you're not as good as you probably were 3 or 4 years ago. So, and I did take that on board, and I kind of, but then I went to Derby for a while, and I just loved it because they were in the bottom. I think they were in about the bottom 6, and then Jim Smith, who was another friend of Ron's, a character, you know, loved a glass of whiskey and stuff like that, and I went there, and I said, like, if I can keep you in this league, will you give me a bonus of a certain amount of money? And then he had me playing centre half, and then we were flying up the league. And what a team they were, by the way. The kids were brilliant. I was thinking, these kids are amazing, and I wanted to play alongside these boys for about 4 years. But so we were flying up the league, and I was thinking, this is the easiest money I've ever earned in my life. So yeah, we got out of trouble, and I loved Jim Smith because I used to go in on Fridays, and then I'd be off until unless we had a midweek game, I'd be off until the next Friday.
The 1994 World Cup, and certainly the performance in Giant Stadium against Italy, it's probably regarded by many as your pinnacle in an Irish shirt. But the road to get there is a bumpy one, I suppose. You know, when you think about it, you talked about it before, that Jack and Mick Byrne, how they managed you, how they looked after you as you were going through difficulties, how the other players minded you. Were they a difficult few years in the lead up to that when you were coming over to join the team for get-togethers? Is that where Jack really showed his humanity towards you?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Jack was always good to me, but Jack understood from the '94 from the Manchester United game that I had a serious wastage thing in my left shoulder. So I remember, and I used to think that Jack had a little bit of a friendship thing going with me. And I remember Mick Byrne came up to me and said, Paul, I think Jack's thinking of taking Dave O'Leary if you're not right, if you're not ready for. And I was in shock. I thought, you what?
So there was a real chance you weren't going to go to the '94 World Cup because of the virus in the shoulder.
Yeah, because of this virus, and Mick was doing all sorts of weights with me, but I couldn't even lift a normal weight. You know, I hadn't got the power in that arm. But and then I was delighted when when I was in the squad and I was going. You know, because then I had more time to work on my arm doing weights and stuff like that. But I really thought he was going to bring Dave. I don't know whether he said it like just as a threat or something like that. But I was thinking, Jack, it's me. Like, you know, you're gonna throw me under a bus. But and I wanted to do brilliant for him as well because he had been so good to me. He had been really, really good to me over the years, and I wanted to be part of it. I didn't want you know. I didn't want 1990 just to be the one that I was involved in. I wanted this, you know, for me and him, to be honest.
The day itself, the night itself in New York, in Giant Stadium, it's one of those famous moments. You step onto the field and you see the fans around you. Is that what you remember? The colour of the occasion. Do you have memories of just what it felt like on that night?
Yeah, I remember walking out, and we hadn't seen the crowds because we didn't want to get too hot and all that sort of stuff. And then we walk out, and suddenly you see the crowd, and I'd say 80% of it is all in green, Irish green, you know, and Irish flags everywhere. And there's odd bits of blue in odd places. So we're going, oh my God, the Irish have shown up in droves. So but then I'm suddenly looking around and I'm going to one or two of the other players. Oh, Jesus, we can't fucking lose the game tonight now. We just can't lose this. We can't lose this game. And the other lads are saying that as well. So, you know, you just couldn't have.
There was something in the air.
Yeah, with that many Irish people in the stadium, you couldn't have lost that game.
Where did that performance come from you? People say that, you know, they talk about golfers being in the zone, or, you know, tennis players, where it looked like that from your point of view, that you just knew where the ball was going to be. You had a kind of telepathic understanding. Like, how did it feel playing that game and being in your shoes?
Yeah, I have to say there was once or twice that I felt really comfortable and I totally relaxed. But things did work out for us. But I was amazed by the kids that were playing that day. And Jason came on. I know Terry Phelan, Dennis, and every one of them were putting in tackles that I couldn't believe. You know, they were putting in last-ditch tackles, and I was just thinking, Jesus, these kids are going to get us to where we want to go tonight. And it was just brilliant. And I loved it. John Sheridan, you know. So we played as a team that night, and every one of us gave 110%. Ray's goal was a little bit lucky, but
I think you're being modest, though. Because it was you were a colossus that night.
Honestly, it was one of those nights when every one of us, I swear to Christ, was just saying, no, you're not tonight.
Yeah.
You can't beat us tonight. And honestly, I think that was from what the first thing we saw when we went out there was that Irish flags everywhere, and we just weren't going to get beaten. And the only time I loved the ending in the game, because I remember they took a quick corner, and I knew that I was the only person on that pitch that could take 2 steps, jump in the air, and no one else could have done that and headed that last ball. And I headed it right over the bar. And I knew no one else could have done that, because I was totally in the right place to do it. And that's the only time that I kind of relaxed and just went, oh, no one can get it, only me. So the 2 steps were made, and I just launched myself in the air, and I just belted it over the bar, and I thought, oh, now I feel comfortable. And then the ref blew up, and it was brilliant.
That night must be an amazing memory to have.
It is against them, because to me, they're brilliant, brilliant footballers. They're all brilliant. Donadoni, jeez. Now I can talk to my grandkids about Donadoni. What a great player he was. But we beat them that night. We beat them. You know, Baggio, great player. We beat them though.
after that, things kind of went a bit downhill, I suppose. We got to the second round, but unfortunately went out. Do you think that was the beginning of the end under Jack? You know, in terms of going out of '94 and then maybe the campaign that followed.
Yeah. I think in the manner we went out as well. I think there were just breaks again. You know, breaks on us, but I'd love to be able to say that I could hold my hands up and say I should have said to Jack, you know, even in playing, you know, the 2 games that I'd played or whatever it was, or 3 games that I'd played, that I should not have been playing because of my shoulder.
Yeah.
I'm delighted I did play the first game in particular because it did all go kind of right for me. But Jack's very loyal like that, you know what I mean? So he won't. If you tell him you're fit and you're well, I think he'll throw you in anyway. And I didn't want to be cut out of anything really, to be honest. But I think that there was younger players there and there was better players probably that just could have just maybe got us to the next. And it was an unlucky goal that Packy kind of.
Afterwards, do you think did Jack stay on too long, or was he too loyal to players?
Yeah.
In the year or 2 that followed.
Yeah, I think he was very, very loyal to the players who he thought had done so much, I think, for him, you know, and he didn't want to start picking players out and saying, well, you're going to have to go, or, you know, three players that started with me are going to have to go, and then maybe another 2 the next get cut out with the next squad. And I don't think he wanted to do it that way. So I think that's why he just wanted us all to stay together, and he wanted us all to go together, if you know what I mean. Not go together, but he wanted to be gone kind of before he had to chop the team up. And
I think we all wanted it to last forever, though. But the night in at Anfield and the defeat to the Dutch, and it's over for him. Was that a sad time?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was a very sad time for him. But I think he was. I think he was ready for it, though. You know, I honestly do. I think he'd ran the course of the 10 years, and I think that's what he realised was going to have to be done next. Meaning, I'm going to have to disband this team and try and put another team together. I'm not willing to do that, and I think that's a lovely way to go out as well.
In the film, the Jack Charlton film, towards the end of his life, he is suffering from dementia, and he's shown some footage of that old time, and he doesn't remember a lot.
Yeah.
But you come walking out at one point, and he turns to his wife and says, "Paul McGrath."
Paul McGrath.
So, was there a special connection, you think?
Oh yeah, because I wouldn't have played half the games. If there wasn't, I would not have been able to play half the games, and I loved playing the games from. I genuinely did. I loved running harder than I've ever run probably on a football pitch, for that man in particular, because I really did. I loved him. I loved the chances he gave me. I loved the chats he'd have with me. I loved the fact that he knew. I think he knew a little bit about my backstory. That he gave me a little bit of rope that he probably wouldn't have given to too many of the other players, and I think he knew on any given day I'd give him 110% if I was 110% myself. So
you certainly did.
He was. Yeah, I think he was a very kind man to me.
The end for you comes under Mick. Then Mick McCarthy takes over. That, again, a bit like the Villa thing, was that a hard one where one of your old teammates had come in and he felt he had to make changes? Did you have any resentment towards Mick?
Not one
No.
bit. Not one bit. No, because I I found it now it happened in a funny way. So I didn't mind half as much, because I'd not been selected for one of the Irish matches, and then when I was brought back in then for I don't know whether it was Macedonia or something, and what's his name now? Gareth Farley was an Aston Villa kid who was working at Aston Villa with me, and we were flying over together. And Mick had brought one player too many, and Gareth kept in my ear on the plane all the way over saying, "Paul, I'm going to get sent back. I'm going to get sent back. This, you know, why did he even bring me over? I'm going to get sent back." And I kept saying, "Gareth, please stop in my ear. Just you do your best. You're a good footballer. You can, you know, take it down in the midfield." He was a midfielder. Take it down in the midfield and show him you're a bloody good player. And so we were all sitting on the back of the bus one day, and we were all getting off, and Mick is up the front of the bus, and all the players are lining out to walk. We'd all played the five-a-sides and stuff like that, and I'd put in what I thought was a brilliant display. No, not a brilliant display, but good display. And I always got off last because I was on the right at the end of the bus. And as I'm stepping off, Mick holds the rail of the bus, and he goes, "Paul, can I have a quick word with you?" And I went, "Yeah, no problem at all, Mick, no problem." He says, "Paul, we won't be needing you." And I actually started giggling because I was thinking of Gareth. I was thinking, Gareth's at me like this for half the week. And Mick said, "Paul, we you know, you can head off back to, you know, wherever it was I was going." And I said, "No problem at all, Mick." Now, like I say, I was giggling a lot, but then I was thinking, of all the things to do, I thought, bring me over as the oldest player, and then just to do it kind of in front of the lads, to mean that I'm the one that then has to be walking out of the hotel that day saying goodbye to some of the lads and stuff like that. But I took it all in my stride, and I just said, "Fair enough, Mick, no problem at all," and I just left that way. But I love Mick to this day. I still think he's one of the reasons that we got so far in certain competitions, because he's a cracking lad, you know. But and I told Gareth, and Gareth was in stitches, of course, like thinking, you know, well, at least it wasn't me.
Yeah. Your testimonial then in 1998, 40,000 nearly turn up. Added your boys are there as well. Yeah. Must have been mixed emotions though. End of a real incredible journey, and maybe thinking about life after football as well, and yet such an outpouring of gratitude and love.
I couldn't believe it, like how many people were there, and Dalkey United had helped in that, in arranging, you know, all the things that went on and surrounded that. So I was amazed by the people's reaction, and you know, I thought I've had a reasonable career and stuff like that. So, and I've enjoyed it as well. And I always enjoy looking at football, even to this day. Like, I love watching good players play football, and for everyone to turn up that day was just amazing. And I'll forever be indebted to Irish people.
If one of your grandkids, or if somebody who'd never seen you came and asked you, what sort of player were you? What did you like about football? What did you enjoy about it? How would you explain yourself as a player? What was it about it?
I do love tackling, yeah, but I like doing it fairly. I've never gone out, and I don't think I've ever been sent off in English context, in an English game. But I love tackling. I love tackling.
Physical contest.
Hard, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not you know, if I see a ball, I'll go for the ball. I'll take the ball, and if it's the man's afterwards, the man will get taken as well. But I'm fair. I've been tackled a couple of times when I know people have tried to hurt me, and it doesn't worry me. But I know, I tell them, you know, if you want to play it that way, I can play it that way, and I will play it that way if you want me to. But I've never went out to hurt anyone on a football pitch, because I'd rather be a sportsman than one of these lads who goes out to ruin someone's career or something. It's not in my nature.
Did you struggle with life after football in terms of not being a footballer anymore? It's something that many players have talked about, that moment where you're no longer going into the dressing room.
Yeah, and that's the biggest, that's the hardest part, I think, for every footballer, that daily routine of hiding some, I know it sounds, it's very immature and all this sort of thing, but just, you know, playing pranks on each other, or in my case, it was just going into a bunch of comedians, because we had, at Aston Villa, there was so many lads that were just so funny, and you do miss that, and you miss the camaraderie of just if you're going on a trip somewhere together. We would fly all around the world together sometimes, and you miss all that. And then when you do see them at a golfing tournament now or something, it's just great to see them. You know, it's you know. But I'm happy, and again, I'm one of those people who's kind of happy in his own company as well. So I'm not a great mixer, but I am with people that I've known and like and I've loved. You know, like the lads, you sort of just bond with them, and so it's you know, it's a lovely way of getting to know people and having a laugh.
You did the book with Vincent Hogan a few years after you finished, and it's regarded as one of the greatest sporting books ever written. Your honesty is so powerful. You know, you laid it all out there, what you'd been through. Why did you decide to do it at that time?
Yeah, I'd been asked to write a few times to do it, you know, and I'd done one with Carl Dervin, and I honestly did just think that Vincent Hogan had said to me once or twice, Paul, I'd love to do a second book and stuff like that. And I was going, geez, I don't want everything put out there again. But then Vincent said a few more times to me, and to be honest, I really did like Vincent. So I said, yeah, well, we'll do it and we'll see how it goes and stuff like that. So yeah, and the more we were doing it, the more I started trusting Vincent, and I thought he did it in a great way as well, you know, by getting other people's opinions and stuff like that, and writing the whole book around, you know, friends were saying things about, you know, and it kind of worried me in some respects, because I was going to be reading what friends taught me and how they taught, but it was kind of caring in the end, because they were just saying I think he needs a bit of help, and he might need looking after. Someone might need to be looking after what he's going to do afterwards when he's finished football, because he's not very, you know, on that the clever side of things when I'm getting businesses or something together, or what am I going to do? But and things are still working out okay for me, so I think I'm either...
It did help you to put it all down, did it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it did. Very much so. Very much so. And like I say, Vincent did it in a very caring way by getting people who actually did give a hoot about me, and just making me maybe see that, you know, geez, you can't go on the way you're going on, because you're just going to make a fool of yourself, really, to be honest.
And did you ever think of how it would have benefited others to read about what who were going through the same things?
Yeah,
to benefit your experiences and help them over time.
Yeah, well, that's why I never asked for things to be cut out or anything like that. I tell my sons not to read certain things, and my daughter not to read because there's some of it is a bit of a mess and stuff like that. But other than that, other people, yeah, I know there's other people, and I think I tell about, like, I wet the bed till I was 17 or something like that, and you got your sheets hung out the windows and all this sort of stuff just to embarrass you and all that bullshit. But you know, and all the things that I think were horrific at the time, and scary at the time, because you didn't want the whole school knowing, which they would have done, when you walk in, that you'd pissed your bed the night before or something like that, and that's horrific for kids. So it was wrong what they were doing, but you know. But then look, I turned into a footballer, so that was okay. It's okay now anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm not wetting my bed now, so that's good.
So here you are in your 60s and looking brilliant. And I think of the noise of the crowds, the thousands in the terraces and the stands and on the streets of Dublin welcoming you home, and the ups and downs, as you've mentioned, of your life. How does the quiet life suit you now?
Perfectly. I love it. I honestly do. You know, but I also love, and this is what I'd like people to know, that I love chatting football. I love mixing with people. People think because I say I'm a little bit shy and stuff like that. I do talk and I do love chatting about certain things, but I'm just not overly. You know, I don't run over to people and start wanting to join their conversations and stuff like that. But I love people.
Wexford suits you.
Wexford does suit me. It does. It does.
You even go to GA matches and
I do,
time to time.
Yeah, and I love it because, you know, I love the rugby, I love GA, I love watching the hurling. Yeah, I love it all. I go to the Wexford youth games as well. So, you know, because I'll always love sport anyway, any sort of sport. So.
And you mind yourself?
I do, yeah. I have to, yeah, because sometimes there's one or two people who are always going to want a little bit of banter and a little bit of fun with you and stuff like that. I'm getting too old to be messing about with people that I don't want to mess about with, really, to be honest, you know. But I mind myself, yeah.
You lost your mother last year, which, you know, a few months, I think, after Jack as well. And what did it mean to you to have such a strong relationship with her towards the end?
Yeah, it was tough because we weren't allowed. It was at that moment where you weren't allowed to drive up, you weren't allowed to do this, you weren't allowed to do that. But I drove up anyway. You know, when she was in hospital and stuff like that, and it was horrific, really, to be honest, to see what she was going through and how she was going through it. And profound effect on me, I think, because I didn't, you know, I don't ever want to see anyone else either in my family or anyone else's family to have to die that way, because that was just horrific. I don't know how you can let people drift off like that, you know, because it was horrific to have to watch your mother dying in that way. You know, it's barbaric, and I'm not. You know, I wasn't comfortable at all. I'm not comfortable around that anyway. I'm not comfortable around people. You know, it wasn't just. You know,
it was tough.
Yeah, it was tough, very tough. So, but I don't know. But I'm not a doctor, and I'm not, you know, have nothing to do with that side of things. But I just, I shouldn't have been invited up there to have to watch that. That's something else.
She must have been very proud of you when you were doing things on the field. Was she? Did she watch your matches?
Yeah, she was actually really good with football. She could tell, like, she was brilliant at being able to say whether a goal was a goal, whether someone was offside. She'd get it before me, and she'd say he was definitely offside. It touched his foot when it ran through, so it was there. And she'd be right. And she went to the my stepfather. She married a lad, Noel Loud, who was actually played for Shamrock Rovers, and he had taken her to the 1966 World Cup final.
Wow.
The final. So she'd watch this final, and incredibly then, like, you know, her kid then years later, because my mum used to kick ball with me when I was really young. Now, I wasn't with my mum a lot because obviously I went into the orphanage and stuff like that, but football, she had a great connection to football. She was an Arsenal supporter. I don't know how that happened, because I was a Chelsea supporter. and then obviously at Aston Villa. But she had a hard towards the end, and that's, but, you know, but a lot of people have had it hard since this thing started.
Yeah. When you think of all that's been talked about in recent years about what girls like her went through and were forced to go through by the attitudes of the time, the cruelty that was around really at the time, and you hear so many stories coming out in the last few years about, you know, mother and child homes, etc. Does it help to think that people are now kind of recognising the cruelties and the things that were done in this country at that time?
Yeah,
that she endured. And
yeah, well, she wouldn't have endured it too much, because when I was given up for adoption as soon as she arrived in Dunleary. Do you know what I mean? So I went straight to foster parents at first, and then I went back to my mum's for about a month I think it was. And then I went straight into the Bird's Nest, which was the orphanage that I stayed in for, well, till I think I was 12. And then when I got out of there, then the second one, it was 18. I was 18 when I left that. So that, yeah. So, yeah, but my mum always came down to see me and stuff like that, so that was great.
Yeah. There's a lovely bit in your book when your mother talks about guardian angels, you know, and she's talking about Okune, was your sister.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a really lovely thing. She passed away at a young age.
That's right, yeah.
But when you think about the people we've talked about, whether it's Jack or Jim Walker or Graham Taylor, even Mick Byrne, obviously, the people like that, do you feel like in some ways that there have been always somebody...
Oh, most definitely, because...
keeping an eye.
Yeah, without a doubt. I've been lost in countries. I've been in countries, and I literally I've just jumped in a cab and gone for a drink somewhere, and no one knows where I am, and I always get found, like, somehow. But yeah, there's always been people that have looked out for me anyway, you know, and I don't mean to cause people offence or think that they'll always be there, they'll always come and get you. Paul, don't worry about it, you're sitting enjoying it, the music and but people have been very, very good to me, and I think you know, and Jimmy Walker and Mick Byrne and Charlie O'Leary, the people that you wouldn't, they've always looked out for the lads, I think, you know, the lads who are maybe not so confident and not so, yeah, but I was a little bit of a rogue as well, though. I kind of like being a bit of a rogue, you know.
People used to call you a gentle giant on the field, and in the midst of all that, though, you must have been had a phenomenal determination as well, looking back on it all, to do what you did, to get through what you did, to play through the pain of injuries, and even to prove people wrong or to come through. Was that a part of it? Were you somebody who also had that part of you that was incredibly determined?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I must say that, yeah. I actually did like proving people wrong. You know, you do hold things like that. But
you had an inner fire at times.
Yeah, you do, because you don't like to be told you're not good enough for a certain team, and you're ruining things for everyone else by staying in football even.
That inner determination took you a long way, Paul. If you could say something to the kid with the football at Pierce Rovers, or kicking around with his mates, with everything that you've done and everything you've known in the time since, what would you say to that kid?
I'd say thanks for learning quickly, because I needed to learn the whole game from when I watched them play on their own, that same team, that Pierce Rovers team, they were actually quite a good team. When I stepped into it, I was upsetting everyone. I was chasing the ball. I didn't know where I was. And it was only till Tommy Heffernan told me the positions I was supposed to be in and stuff like that. He actually just taught me. So it was from that. It's to him I probably owe the biggest the biggest debt, sorry, of gratitude, because he was the one that told me, don't be running over there when you're supposed to be here. Don't be doing that. You can't be chasing everything. You can't be, you know. And I think that, yeah.
You did learn quickly.
I did.
Every step.
I did, because I wanted to be in the team.
Yeah.
And it was as simple as that. And same with Jack. As soon as he stuck me in midfield, I was going, I play wherever you want me. Wherever you want me to play, I'll play, because I've got a green jersey on.
In 100 years' time, if they talk about Paul McGrath, the footballer, what would you like to think they'd say?
Good tackler. Good tackler. Yeah, and I gave my best. I honestly did give my best.
Can't ask for much more than that.
That's the truth.
Paul, thanks for telling us your story.
Tell me, no problem
brilliant.
at all. Pleasure, absolute pleasure. Nice to see you again as well.